All right, YouTube, it's time for a reaction to the last Republican debate. I would react to the Democratic race right now, but really there's nothing to react to. You don't even really hear Trump being in the Republican race is so dominant at this point, and I'll point out a couple of sound bites why, specifically from the last debate last night. The Democrats have just disappeared into the background, really, unless you're on a Bernie Sanders Facebook page. You're not hearing a lot about it. Even the Democratic partisans, the Being Liberal page, which isn't even staffed by liberals because they're fucking supporting Hillary Clinton, or Salon, which just likes her because she has boobs and a vagina. All they're talking about, really, how bad Trump is and occasionally how bad Cruz is, or what stupid thing Rubio has done for the third time in a day. They don't even talk about their own candidates anymore. They just talk about Donald Trump. It's actually a little bit annoying to me because what it's doing is really taking away from anybody talking about anything other than what insult has Trump said today, what insult has Rubio said to Trump today, why today we have 5 more people analyzing why Trump is a Nazi or Klan friendly or the savior or something. It depends on who you ask. It's getting a little tiring. This isn't even really, at this point, I think, a political race anymore. It's just a race of who can hurl the best insults, and people are turning it into a WWE style thing. A lot of it, yes, indeed, is for show. And by the way, nobody blames, they may dislike Rubio and Cruz, but nobody blames them for attacking the person they're competing with. But people are starting to wonder, I think, and Trump needs to point this out, by the way. People are beginning to wonder, why are the Republicans, including a lot of them that haven't actually endorsed any of his competitors, it's not like they're trying to get their own person elected, they're just trying to destroy Donald Trump. Why are they raising tens of millions of dollars when the general election hasn't even begun yet, attacking their own frontrunner that clearly has more popularity than his opponents, as opposed to raising that same amount and attacking the Democrats? I would think that if you began now, early and often, attacking Hillary Clinton, who is the inevitable Democratic nominee short of being indicted or dying on stage, I would think you could weaken her preemptively, and it wouldn't even, if these people are concerned that Trump is a weak candidate, which for a million reasons he's not, then why don't you spend money weakening the Democratic opponent who is vulnerable? There's a whole lot of shit on the Clintons as a collective total, and you're not even exploiting it. You're just talking about how bad Trump is. The big line of the night that got, the most attention throughout their own mostly shitty analysis and into today was Trump making a joke about his dick. That was the highlight of the 11th Republican debate. Ask yourself this. Have you ever, and Trump needs to ask his fans this rhetorically in the next interview he gives, or else he's eventually going to fall out of favor. He needs to point out the following. Why do you think it is that the Republicans in positions of power are attacking me instead of attacking what supposedly their opponent is, which is Hillary Clinton? They're more worried about me. Why? And he can draw a comparison there and say, well, it's because I'm not going to be listening to all the rich donors and powerful Republicans because I was one of these donors. I haven't taken their money and I don't really give a fuck what they say or do. That's a winning strategy going forward, but oddly enough, he's put himself aside and said, well, I'm not controlled by their money. Okay, that's great. Why don't you harp on the point for a while about how they're actually raising tens of millions of dollars to derail the campaign of their own frontrunner while completely ignoring Hillary Clinton? Look at Mitt Romney's speech. Mitt Romney has not endorsed any of Trump's competitors. He hasn't come out and said, well, I support Ted Cruz, and so I'm going to help him take Trump down. He hasn't come in and said, well, I support Rubio, so I'm going to help Rubio take down Trump and become the nominee, or Kasich, or anything like that. He hasn't done that. He's just saying, well, anybody but Donald Trump. I'd never support him. He's a loser. And yet at the same time, you're just giving him more fodder because you yourself sought his endorsement, sought his money the last time around, ranted about how great a man he was. Oh, he's a better businessman than me. Meanwhile, of course, Romney, known as a businessman. In what world does this make sense? In what world does what just went on at the debate make sense? You're so worried about Hillary being the next president. I remember a few years before Trump got in, it was all, oh, we're going to stop Hillary. She's the worst person that could possibly be in office. She's just the devil incarnate. She won 66.6% in one of the states in the last round. Actually, Fallon was joking about that. She's just the worst possible person. She'll crush our economy. Our rights will be taken away. She'll confiscate your guns. If she's really that bad, then why are you spending your time attacking your own frontrunner? How does this make any sense? It's never happened before. And it's never happened before that on the debate stage, the frontrunner makes a joke about his dick being of abnormally large size. Now, yes, he was responding to Rubio's frequent criticism and saying what Rubio never wanted to say because, of course, when you indicate to people, hey, you know what they say about guys with small hands, by the way, mine, I think you would argue, are on the large side. Usually that joke is followed up with their dick is also small. Rubio, of course, flipped this, and he said, oh, well, you know what they say about guys with small hands, you can't trust them. Okay. Everybody knew what reference Marco Rubio was making. He was just being a little bit too polite and politically correct to actually carry out the joke. Trump doesn't give a fuck. He comes up and says, oh, I guarantee there's no problem with something else. And he stole the show, and Rubio gave him the capability to do this, and what would have been a focus on Trump's shortcomings became Trump makes joke about dick on debate stage, and you could see people like Bill O'Reilly made a big deal about saying, well, I'm not really offended by that, because they wanted to talk about the other things that had happened in the debate, not that there was a whole lot going on there anyway. But they weren't able to do so because the only thing anybody wanted to talk about was now Donald Trump's hands. Donald Trump's hands are the story of the day, not his policies, not what he said about anything substantial, not his past, not the future, not the direction of the economy, not his opponents, not Hillary Clinton, his hands. It was masterful. I mean, he knew, obviously, the news would pick that up if he just threw that out there. But, I mean, the debate was a complete wash. It was almost unwatchable. I found myself saying, yeah, there's some funny thing, like the yoga reference that Rubio made. Yeah, it's kind of funny, and Ted Cruz eating his own booger, apparently. And just, I mean, it was a shitfest, a free-for-all. Kasich was the only one there that even attempted to cover any policies. You had Rubio saying, well, I'm ready to talk about policies. Trump just deflects all the time, and then he did the same thing. People noticed that, thought it was hypocritical. Ted Cruz sat there and ranted and ranted and ranted. I'm the only one who can beat Trump, whatever. But you haven't put forward any real differences between yourself and Trump at this point. Neither, too, has Rubio. That's the problem. Trump, and here's my prediction for the next 4 states. I originally said I expected Trump to win Maine and Kentucky handily. Louisiana was up in the air, but he had an advantage, and he'd lose Kansas to Cruz. But if the new polling's any indication, he's probably just going to win all 4 of them. Actually, Maine is probably the most up in the air. It turns out he's actually the furthest ahead in Louisiana. Now, I didn't expect this. I expected, because it's sort of on the fringes of sort of the Texas region and the Deep South Bible Belt, my assumption was that Trump would come out near even with Cruz. You'd have that interplay like you had in Oklahoma or Arkansas, these fringe areas within this part of the country, where it's sort of split between the Deep South Baptist Bible Belt. Trump is utterly in command of that. That's why he's going to do well in Florida. That's why Rubio's down there every day now campaigning. And he's not, and now you've got people like Krauthammer saying Rubio will probably lose Florida. I'm going to assume that Krauthammer knows what he's talking about. He's usually fairly accurate. I assumed that, like Arkansas or Oklahoma, it'd be pretty even. You know, of course, Ted Cruz won Oklahoma by like 3 points. Trump won Arkansas by, I think, 4 or 5. So definitely in play regions of the country, which is what I said would happen. Louisiana, I assumed, would be the same because, of course, it's between Texas and sort of the true Dixieland Deep South. It appears he's actually 22 points ahead, and there are actually 3 different polls bearing this out. I don't think Louisiana is in... I mean, this is tomorrow. People don't even have time to digest the debate, and according to everyone that could have analyzed it, The debate didn't matter. Nobody put forth any real new proposals. Nobody really changed their behavior. Ted Cruz continued to try to take the moral high ground while insulting others. Rubio attempted to remain a centrist while getting called out on his record on guns and immigration and insulting others. Trump attempted to talk about a few issues, got beaten down by the moderators, which everybody knew that this debate was going to be an ambush for him. It's a Fox News forum with Megyn Kelly on it. Everybody who came into the debate supporting Trump still supports Trump. People who came in for Rubio largely still support Rubio. I expect that number, however, to have declined after his poor showing on Super Tuesday because of the electability argument. Those that went in supporting Ted Cruz are going to stay on board with Ted Cruz, and he didn't suffer a decline after Super Tuesday. Actually, he might incline a point or two. Trump, I believe, will take Maine. Probably 75% chance he gets Maine. There's not a lot of good polling, but it's in New England. He's outperformed in every New England state. There's no reason to believe he loses it. Kentucky, I think, will end up similar to Tennessee. He'll be ahead by 5 to 10 points. He'll do well. He'll win the state. It won't be a complete crushing victory, but it'll be a win. Louisiana, I think he'll win that, solidifying again his lead in the Deep South with one more state. And I think the next one up is Mississippi. He's like 30 points ahead there. And then Kansas, I still believe Cruz will eke out a win there. I believe they're also a caucus state. So I think still that Cruz will win Kansas. I'm more sure now that Trump will get Maine. But I think I'm assuming that Cruz gets Kansas. If he doesn't, then this race is basically over. You got 4 more Trump states. He then has 14 victories. Ted Cruz has 5. Rubio has 1. That's not going to look good, especially for Rubio. It also means enough delegates have been accounted for, so Rubio no longer can actually get the majority. Right now, Rubio could get it if he wins a major victory in almost every state. You know, if he'd had a really stellar debate performance and absolutely blown everyone out of the water, he could have done it. He no longer will be able to do that after tomorrow. Ted Cruz falls further behind, begins to look weaker again because Kansas is a heavily evangelical state. If Trump takes Kansas, that's bad news for Ted Cruz. Kasich had certainly the only halfway decent debate performance. Everyone said, whoa, Trump did poorly, got hammered over the head. Yeah, but he did in the last debate. It didn't move anything. The only difference in the race right now, as opposed to after the last debate, is that Trump swept Super Tuesday and no longer looks unelectable to people who are softer supporters. Also, Ben Carson dropped out. Ben Carson's Deep South supporters are going to jump on board with the Trump train. That might be why he's so far ahead now in Louisiana. All those people joined him. A few points of support in New England in the Northeast, a few points of support in the West. But I will say this. It will strengthen Ted Cruz in the Midwest, but the thing is he was already winning there. He's already sweeping the rural states of the far Midwest, of the heartland. Now, Santorum did too, and obviously Santorum did not get a majority of delegates. He came in second, a distant second behind Romney, because at this point in the race, Trump simply needs to sweep these states, go forth, beat out Rubio in Florida, and it's all over. That's the end. Rubio's out. He drops out. When Rubio drops out, all of the non-evangelical states remaining on the map will be Trump's. They will not vote for Ted Cruz. That's exactly how Romney won. Only Romney continued to have a third-tier candidate named Paul, who stayed in till the end, robbing 10 to 15% of everyone else's support. Kasich is unlikely to do that. Kasich's not seen as an outsider. Kasich is seen as the quiet establishment type. He's sort of the non-insulting counterpart to Rubio. But Kasich could rise up to third place right now and actually become Rubio. Now, he can't win. He's already, that boat already sailed. Rubio at least has 100 delegates. Kasich has 20? Mathematically, he cannot put together enough delegates to actually win at the convention. But he can sort of become the next Rubio, and Rubio probably drops out after Florida. My advice to him is you should probably think about dropping out after tonight, because people are going to realize you can't actually win. Let the others batter away at each other. It doesn't matter if you endorse Trump, Cruz, Kasich. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't want to get beaten in your own home state. The writing's already on the wall there. Trump could go down there after tonight and just do nothing but campaign in Florida just to fuck you over. Because he's already well ahead in places like Michigan and Illinois. He doesn't even need to campaign there. He holds one rally, he's got it. But the debate was completely screwed up. The actions of the Republicans are screwed up. By the way, the actions of the Democrats at this point are similar. You've got a third of the Democratic Party amalgamating behind someone, constantly attacking Hillary, saying she's not a real liberal. Then you've got Hillary Clinton's fans looking at Bernie and saying they're all sexist and horrible people, and then you need to fall in line and back Hillary if she gets the nomination, even though she's not worthy of carrying the torch of the party. You see them making these weird statements all of the time. It's no wonder Jesse Ventura is saying, if Bernie doesn't get the nomination, I'll run as an independent. Because he's probably hoping that the Bernie Sanders fans won't just go over and endorse the GOP. He's probably very worried about it. He's a left libertarian. He'll try to siphon off, if Bernie doesn't run as an independent, he'll siphon off a good 10, 20, 30% of Bernie Sanders support, and he'll have a pretty good independent running. Probably average about 5% in every state. Now, this will deny Hillary the election. It will also hurt the Republicans in their overall turnout. You'll have Gary Johnson in there hot and heavy. The Libertarian Party's gearing up for a historic fight. You've got other people who might, McAfee, if he doesn't get the nomination, might run independent. You have all sorts of people. Vermin Supreme could pull off 100,000 votes in such a weird election. It's totally screwed up. And I wasn't happy with the debate. Nobody there actually talked about anything, really. I understand that personality has a lot to do with this. But remember, Hillary Clinton is also a personality candidate. When it comes to, at the end of the day, everybody knows that everything that she says on policy is a complete lie. Even her own fans know. It's going to be hit and miss as to whether she actually pursues those, and if she does, whether she's successful at even getting her own party to support her proposals if she gets elected. People understand that. You would think the Republicans would take an opportunity. Because the Democratic candidate is so absolutely weak, she's being outraised by a socialist with a third of her support nationally. She's being completely blown out of Marco Rubio, because of Republican turnout being so high, Rubio, who is running third right now, is getting more votes as an absolute number than Hillary is. And Trump is just he's getting more votes than Hillary and Sanders combined at this point in many of these races, especially a place like Nevada, New Hampshire, something like that. You'd think the Republicans would take advantage of the fact that their enemy is already on their knees and attack Hillary. Maybe they're not doing that because they're worried about polarization. They're worried that the Democrats will amalgamate behind her, so they're trying to ignore her. That may be a sound strategy, but you probably shouldn't be attacking your own fairly clear frontrunner. Going into tomorrow, Trump is likely to pick up at least 3 of the states. He might. According to the polls, there's a pretty good chance he gets all 4. I still operate from the assumption that Cruz manages to hold on to Kansas, but he's going to lose Louisiana almost certainly. Kentucky, Trump is probably won there. Even if they're closed primaries, if you're ahead by 22 points, I like to think that probably doesn't matter so much. He doesn't need a lot of independent support in order to buoy himself up to double digits. He'll win Louisiana and Kentucky. He's probably going to win Maine. Kansas, jury again, is still out. But the debate was stupid, ultimately. There were some memorable moments, but they weren't memorable because of anything intelligent said. They were memorable because they were meme-worthy. That's about all. Peace out.